Nigeria has directed commercial banks to charge 0.5% cybersecurity levy on electronic transactions. This announcement by the CBN has stirred debate among stakeholders in the financial industry and the general public. But let's take you through the circular released by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, following the enactment of the Cybercrime Prohibition Prevention Amendment Act 2024, and under the provision of Section 44, subsection 2A of the Act, a levy of 0.5%, equivalent to 0.5% of all electronic transactions valued by the business specified in the second schedule of the Act, is to be remitted to the National Cybersecurity Fund, which shall be administered by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Deductions shall commence within 2 weeks from the date of this circular for all financial institutions, and the monthly remittance of the levies collected in bulk to the NCF account domiciled at the CBN by the 5th business day of every subsequent month. Now, the CBN also said non-compliance with levy remittance constitutes an offense subject to penalties, including a fine of not less than 2% of the defaulting business's annual turnover, among other consequences. And finally, all institutions under the regulatory purview of the CBN are hereby directed to note and comply with the provisions of this Act and this circular. Now, that's what the CBN is saying, and Nigerians are asking so many questions. So tonight we have a lot to discuss, but let's speak with our guest who will help us with all you need to know about this cybersecurity levy. Ghazali Abdulaziz is a Google and Oxford certified cybersecurity expert. He's also the founder, CEO, HQ Consultant Limited. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Mr. Aziz.
Yeah, thank you very much, Olaju Moke.
Now, so this conversation we're having tonight, I would like us to, bring in the perspective of governments. I mean, what government is saying, from what angle is government coming from, and also the concerns and speculations out there. At the moment, there is so much apprehension in the air. So, experts are saying this will contribute so much burden on Nigerians in the face of food inflation, in the face of increased electricity tariff. From your perspective, what is it about this cybersecurity levy?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think probably the government has realized that they have been sleeping on the wheel, because cybersecurity is an interesting and a very important thing to look at. If you look at the report, Nigeria was rated second among the most cyberly secured country in Africa, following Senegal. But the truth of the matter is that funding cybersecurity is not cheap, right? Okay. And if you look at the cybersecurity spectrum, we have the government, we have businesses, and we have individuals, right? So government, in their own part, they have a role to play in making sure that critical infrastructures are safe from cyber attack. So the question is how would they fund this? The truth of the matter is that I've not seen anywhere in the world in my journey as a cybersecurity expert where citizens are being levied cybersecurity levy. I don't know what prompted that. I don't know what the CBN is looking at. So if you look at the CBN as a regulatory body, because financial sector is part of our critical infrastructures. We have the financial service, we have the housing, we have the utility service. So Nigerians are concerned. If you are talking about cybersecurity, it's a digital security. For example, as a citizen, how do I pay for the physical security that is being taken care of by the military, by the police, for example? I don't think we have any levy that is called physical security levy. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is that the primary responsibility of every government is to protect life and properties. And there are ways these are being funded. So when you talk about cybersecurity, government has responsibility. But now we are discussing about the funding.
Okay, before we delve further into funding, you talked about physical security levy. Absolutely. Who funds that?
That's what I'm saying. Because if you look at if you look at all government activities, we have what we call budget. We have appropriation, right? From every revenue that is being generated, they have percentage that is being allocated. Absolutely. And let me draw your attention back to our 2024 appropriation bill. If you take a deep dive into the defense and security layer, you observe that our allocation into that particular expenditure head, it declined. It declined. And I believe government will have been so proactive to know that our cyber security space needs to be funded. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria will be concerned to be the one paying for our cybersecurity architecture.
Right, but I mean, when you say that budgets to defense and security declined, a lot of persons would not agree with you because for some security experts, a lot of money has gone into protecting, I mean, the defense and security sector in this country. But now, would you say, let me rephrase this question, is cybersecurity levy new in Nigeria? Because some Nigerians are hearing this for the very first time.
It is new. If you look at the Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention Act that came out in 2015, if you look at this one, this is an amended act to that.
Yes.
And then the CBN, well, they have a better reason why they have not implemented that particular provision of section 48, subsection 2, subsection 8. I think that was the particular subsection that they were referring to in the circular. But the truth of the matter is that cybersecurity levy is new in terms of implementation. It might have been sitting down there in the act, but nobody knows about it.
Actually, it's been sitting down there in the act. But do you think government now, this administration now enacting it, do you think this is a plus to the government?
Well, it is not a plus to the government from cybersecurity perspective. The truth of the matter is that how do we fund cybersecurity activities worldwide? For example, if you look at U.S. budget, they budgeted for cybersecurity. In fact, it actually rose to about 13-point-something billion, if I'm not making a mistake. So it shows that they are proactive, they are concerned. There are other revenue heads where cybersecurity can be funded. Cybersecurity is a critical action point that it must not be played as an operational discussion. I think CBN is a bit operational about it. They tend to be a bit strategic. When you talk about cybersecurity, I think what CBN should have done better is to concentrate on doing what? On ticking the boxes of those that own and operate those critical infrastructure assets. Because if you look at the reason CBN gave for this, they said in order to further strengthen our security of critical infrastructure assets. True. And the truth of the matter, if you permit me to go on, please.
Go on.
In US, for example, in May 2021 of recent, just like 3 years back, there is a particular infrastructure that is critical to them. We call it Colonial Pipeline. Colonial Pipeline is under private ownership. They are responsible for transporting oil, gas from Houston to other parts of Africa. They experienced what we call ransomware attack May 7th, 2021. The federal government stepped in because they see it as a critical line to the economy. There was shortage of gases. You know, people were taken to the street. For the first time in US, after so many years, the government allowed crude oil to be transported on the road. So the government will play an intervention role. But we have a lot of acts. We have a lot of regulation that is saying that players in the IT critical infrastructure sector to put in place cybersecurity for banks. For banks, there are cybersecurity frameworks that must be put in place. We have the Nigeria Data Protection Act that was signed by this administration in 2023. This will also cater for cybersecurity framework of some of these operators in the critical infrastructure economy. So government coming out to say that people should pay 0.5%, which is 0.005, is a bit unrealistic. We have a lot of social economic issues in Nigeria that today people may be reacting from economic perspective. But from what should be perspective as a cybersecurity expert, I am telling you that I have not heard of that anywhere in the world where citizens are being levied cybersecurity levy to fund our cybersecurity.
All right, Mr. Aziz. I mean, it's so interesting also because there are exemptions to some banking transactions, 16 in total. I mean, from what I have here, loan disbursement and repayment, salary payment, intra-account transfers within the same bank, or between different banks for the same customer, intra-bank transfers between customers of the same bank. But, I mean, this has further left some Nigerians confused. I mean, exactly what kind of transaction is CBN targeting?
Thank you very much. So, if you look at the exemption clause, like, for example, if you go to VAT and some other taxation head, we also have exemption, right? So, they look at those activities that probably they are what we call maybe social service or activities within the bank. For example, if you are transferring money from your account, from a particular account to another account in another bank or in the same bank, you don't need to pay cyber security levy. Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, those exemptions, I don't know what CBN is actually thinking of. For example, I'll tell you that, do you know that salary schedule was part of that exemption? As a
Yes.
cybersecurity expert, I will tell you, if I lay hand on your on your salary schedule, you will have a lot of what we call sensitive information. A salary schedule contains what we call the bank name, the account number, and so many, like the BVN also can also be in salary schedule in some cases. We don't know what would have informed the CBN to exempt those lines, but I think when you talk about cybersecurity, as far as I'm concerned, there is no exemption, especially when it comes to securing those things. But probably they are looking at necessities. Salary, it will be paid on a monthly basis, and probably the frequency of doing that. But I'm reacting from a cybersecurity perspective, right?
Absolutely.
If you look at social data, they're also talking about for example, immigration. There we have a lot of citizen data, right? So the social register of Nigeria, that contains a lot of data, like the addresses of people, their names, and sometimes their account number. All these are supposed to also be protected. And people that are in charge of this, they are supposed to have cybersecurity architecture in place to protect them. So I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, is that today, what will have informed CBN to exempt some of those things? All of them shouldn't fly. Some may fly, like the intra-bank transaction and self-transaction might fly.
But I want you to help me clarify two things here. What business entities do you think CBN is also trying to target here? And with these exemptions, is this really targeted at poor Nigerians?
No. If you look at the exemption, it's not actually targeted at poor Nigerians. But as I was saying, I'm talking to you as a cybersecurity expert.
Yes, I
what should be and what should not be. And if you are trying to play big in a game, if you go dirty from the beginning, you'll be able to achieve your dream, right? If you look at what we have done as a nation, right, I don't think we should start with this, right? How are Nigeria being informed about our cybersecurity architecture? I will tell you for free, so many people are complaining that their money is being deducted from their bank. People are moving their money. Are you telling me that bank is cyberly secured? Right. So CBN not saying that people should pay 0.5%. It's not everybody that is in that category, right? But for those that are in that category, they're also victims of cyber attack. So many people are crying of cyber attack. Like 2 days or 3 days back, I had the history of St. George. I don't know if you heard about it. And I also stepped in within my own power to see whatever we can do. We wrote to EFCC, we wrote to OPE, and we also wrote to Zenith Bank. So what we are saying in essence is that regardless of the people that are in that spectrum, right, citizens are concerned because to an extent they look at it that, okay, you are trying to reduce the scope of coverage. You can further extend it if you feel that people are compliant. You can also further extend it from 0.05 to 0.1 if people are compliant. So people are beginning to get worried that if you start with point A, you can get to point D.
All right, so, from what you just said now, is this really about CBN not really communicating this to Nigerians? If we have about 16 exemptions in total, but what is out there is everyone is paying. That's the information out there.
Absolutely.
Do you fault CBN's strategic communication unit on this lack of perhaps awareness, advocacy, that should have gone into properly communicating this to Nigerians?
Yeah, I don't know the extent of effort CBN might have put into this, because I must be sincere.
Because I asked that question because
I believe there will be public hearing in 2015 before they roll out the 2015 Cybercrime Prohibition Act. But as of today, I'm not sure probably CBN is doing enough on this. Probably they just wake up, they don't want to sleep on the wheel further. They feel that we should get to this. But beginning with the Cybersecurity Levy is not the right starting point. Nigerians are not informed. I can assure you, if they feel Nigeria are informed, they should share with us the communication channel, they should share with us those information that have passed to ordinary Nigeria in the past to be sure that a cybersecurity levy has been communicated.
So what you're saying now is so much awareness, so much advocacy should have gone ahead of this announcement.
Absolutely.
All right, so do you also think this is, this policy is ill-timed?
Yes, I think so. I think it is. We have a lot of socio-economic issues, as I've stated, and people are complaining about a multiplicity of taxation. People are complaining of what direction are we really going with respect to fines, penalty, levy. But one thing we must commend that the government is doing well on cybersecurity. I told about the rating of Nigeria. We came from from almost the bottom to second position. The government is committed in fighting cyber crimes, right? And I've been to the National Cyber Crime Center also in Abuja. You know, we had this cyber security conference last week at Abuja with the Interpol. We are not, as private player, we're not allowed in, but it was actually Interpol affair. Nigeria, as a nation, we are not doing badly when it comes to cybercrime. I must give it to the government. But the government must realize their role in the cybersecurity space. And I must tell you that the critical infrastructures, they are not publicly owned as of today. Who are those that controls the water supply? Right? Is it the government? I believe the answer is almost no. Who are those that control electricity? We have the discos. Who are those that control transportation? Like Lagos State, we are not doing badly when it comes to transportation. We can see the blue line, right? But if you travel abroad, most of the transportation channels, they are automated. They leverage on what we call computing. So what happens if they are hacked? They can't move on the rail. But ours as of today is just electrified, right? But the truth of the matter is that if we rely hugely on computing, people need to contribute to that. So what we are saying as of today is that our cybersecurity architecture should be meant to be run by those that owns and operate those critical infrastructures. The telecommunications are owned and run by private sectors. The financial sector is run and owned by private investors. So they have their roles. We have the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, that guide how businesses. We have the ISOs that guide how business deals with data, how they protect data. We have our own Nigeria Data Protection Regulations. What are the provisions? So I believe CBN as a regulator, what they ought to have done. Okay, banks. We have a lot of cases around you guys. What are you doing? People are complaining that their money is being moved illegally. So any bank that is found wanting, there is penalty. On this, let me also mention on this, man. When it comes to funding, from regulations, government can generate a lot of things. In 2020, if I'm not making a mistake, British Airways was found wanting of data breach. They were fined £20 million. Right? And they paid. So you can't hack citizens. We were playing small. There are a lot of money that could be generated by those that are found wanting. There are a lot of Nigeria banks, there are a lot of telcos, there are a lot of other institutions that are not cyberly secured, that are trying with our personal sensitive data. So CBN in their own space, they should look at it, banks as a regulatory arm. Do you know CBN have what we call IT standard blueprint? They have it in 2019, it was issued for the financial sectors, right? And the NCC also, to regulate the telecommunications, they should also, okay, how do we audit your critical infrastructure from IT perspective? So what we are talking about is that we know cybersecurity is business for everybody, but government play a leading role. Let me also shock you of maybe last year or of recent, probably this year, government of some countries, they are paying what we call cybersecurity grants. They are not collecting from
citizens.
They are paying to states, local government, and the territorials, like the councils, right? So what we are talking about is that government must know their strategic role. Because what the CBN has done, as far as I'm concerned, is not much strategic from cybersecurity perspective.
Now, I mean, it's very interesting to hear about this latest rating on Nigeria's cybersecurity.
Absolutely, we are second.
Because, I mean,
we are second. We are not doing
for some, if NSA was really doing its job, maybe there would be some justifications for these payments. But let's talk about revenue generation, if indeed this is why government is doing this. Because some experts have sat down to say this levy is estimated to generate more than 3 to 5 trillion naira annually.
Absolutely.
So from the angle of government, is this about revenue generation?
Well, I can't speak for the government because I don't know what the intent is. But as a matter of fact, as a concerned citizen and as a professional in my field, I'll look at it as being monetary motivated. Because, you know, if you're talking about value addition, right, we have a lot of defense layers that are adding value to our cybersecurity roadmap. But tasking, no, the truth of the matter is that you can't just start with taxing the citizen about cybersecurity Government, they have legitimate rights, right, in terms of generating revenue in order to better serve the citizen. Protection is very critical, but I think the government, they are not doing badly in terms of cybersecurity, and I will continue to say it because I've seen our rating worldwide, and I know what we're also doing in that aspect. But this is not strategic. I can say it, and it's not.
All right, so how do you advise CBN on being strategic about this?
I told you, see, if the intention, the truth of the matter is that if the intention is that we need funding to fund our cybersecurity activities, there are better ways to go about it. You see, cybersecurity is not done in isolation, right? There are collaboration globally, right? We have our sister countries, we have people in Africa. We also have international bodies. What I'm saying is that how effective are our laws in terms of doing your job as data processor, in terms of doing your job as data collector, in terms of doing your job as data custodian? I can tell you for free, if CBN is to do their job very well from a cybersecurity enforcement perspective, they can get nothing less than 2 trillion. I am telling you for free, because the money is out there. People are suffering in the digital space because you make use of an e-commerce channel, for example, and your money is just being wiped out. You understand? It shows that there are level of vulnerabilities in all those platforms. Who is responsible for IT audit of those platforms? Why do you think people are going to OPay? Why do you think people are going to Pampe? So sorry to mention name. I'm just mentioning this fintech. People went to those people because when they got credited, they get alerts. So people tell you for that reason that's why they went. But at the end of the day, some of them, they cried out of the place because probably their money was not protected.
Right. So another concern for Nigerians is that, some of the levies we pay for transactions in Nigeria you pay these levies after making your profit. But this is transaction tax. Am I correct?
Absolutely, you are correct.
So what's the impact of these on the ease of doing business in Nigeria?
Well, the amount individually is highly insignificant, if you may ask. The amount is highly insignificant, if you ask me. Somebody that is able to transfer 1 million, for example, paying probably like 5,000 naira or thereabouts. I believe it is highly insignificant. It won't really affect our ease of doing business rating because it doesn't cut across all transactions, as I've also mentioned. But the truth of the matter is, what is the right thing to be done, right? Should be done. Our rating will be affected in terms of ease of doing business because if you look at the rate...
No, I'm actually talking about the practicality of doing business in Nigeria if this happens. No,
unlikely. I don't see any negativity to that. There are a lot of taxes or levy that are higher than this, and people are paying it. I believe you are very much aware of that. So this should not affect our economic rating. Should not affect our economic activities. Because Nigeria, to be candid, we have a lot of business activities going out there. With the fact that people are still crying that we are paying a lot of levy, a lot of taxes, people are still moving about their day-to-day activities. But when it comes to cybersecurity, my interest is on the fact that what is sustainable? Is 0.05% sustainable? The answer is no.
All right, we'll talk about the sustainability of this after this break. I've been speaking with Ghazali Abdulaziz, a Google and Oxford certified cybersecurity expert. Tonight we're talking about the cybersecurity levy and matters arising. We'll go on a break and I'll be right back. Stay with us.